Happy, sexy, millionaire. Something most of us aspire to. But behind the clickbait title of this book by Steven Bartlett, who runs the successful Diary of a CEO podcast, lies something with real substance. I would recommend this book to anyone who's never picked up a self-help book before, and go as far to say that it is the quintessential first step into the vast world of self-help books. Here's why. The book is part autobiography, part self-help. Bartlett talks through his life from a working class background to his meteoric rise in the business world, which saw him become a millionaire in his 20s. The title is inspired by goals he wrote down as a child, which he wanted to achieve by the age of 25. He tells the story about the journey, which led him to achieve those goals, but more importantly, how many of the conceptions he had were misguided. Bartlett is refreshingly honest about his opinions and thoughts on the world, and whilst I didn't agree with every single one of them, it comes across that he genuinely believes these things, and he's not just saying them to sound dramatic or attention-grabbing. One of the main themes of the book is how society and social media have defined how we see happiness and success. In his pursuit of being a happy, sexy millionaire, Bartlett discovers that so many of the principles we're taught from teachers and parents are complete nonsense, and he unapologetically calls these out and breaks them down. In their place, he puts in the principles he's learned or cultivated along the way to his millionaire status. To name a few, he sees happiness as fulfillment, not as a mood. He emphasises the importance of how you deal with situations, not what has happened to you. And finally, he not only sees quitting as acceptable, but goes as far to say that it's a skill. He explains these principles as he walks through how he did become a happy, sexy millionaire, but just not in the way he expected. One of the best things about this book is that it's a page turner. Most of the time, self-help books are either so wordy or so dense that it's tough to read more than a couple of chapters at a time. But this isn't the case with this one. I found myself burning through this in only 2 sittings, which is very rare for me. This is because Bartlett is excellent at getting to the point and explaining things in a clear and concise manner. He never labours on a point more than is needed. When I read The Laws of Human Nature by Robert Greene, whilst it is an excellent book, I found that Greene's writing style used far too many examples to illustrate the same point. Bartlett never makes that mistake. His writing style is much similar to James Clear in Atomic Habits. It's clear, concise, and gets to the point. This is also helped by Bartlett's use of diagrams and quotes throughout the book. Every several pages is one dedicated to a single quote, or an illustration of the principle he's discussing. This not only helps explain his point, but it works as a form of pattern interrupt. You get through a chapters a little bit quicker, and it refocuses you so you don't just start scanning sentences without actually reading it. Bartlett comes across as far too well read and intelligent for this to be an accident. Finally, one of the main reasons I think this is an excellent self-help book for beginners are the references that Bartlett provides at the end. At the back, you'll find references to podcasts, scientific papers and other books which correspond to each chapter. So if you find an idea in a chapter quite interesting and want to know more, then Bartlett's already given you the information needed to delve into that concept further. This is an excellent addition because this book is not meant to be a deep dive into one or just a few concepts. It is a broad stroke of a wide range of different principles. When you combine this with Bartlett's clear style of writing, then this is why I think it is the best starting place for anyone who's never picked up a self-help book before. In some instances, I think Bartlett has explained certain concepts clearer than those who came up with them in the first place. Of course, the book is not perfect. For a start, I get it, Stephen. You had a company valued in the stock exchange at £200 million at just the age of 25. It felt like this was mentioned every chapter, and now I have that fact burned into my memory. However, in Bartlett's defence, I did read the book in 2 sittings, and this may have contributed to me finding that fact repetitive. The main criticism of this book is that the ideas included aren't necessarily the most original. If you've read a lot of other self-help books before, then you'll definitely notice a lot of principles coming up that you've probably encountered in other texts. So if you're looking for something really new and original, then you might not necessarily find it by reading this book. The unique point of this book, though, is how these principles are packaged together, not necessarily the ideas included. And if you've never read any self-help books before, then they'll certainly appear new and refreshing to you. Finally, the book focuses a lot on what Bartlett thinks and why he thinks that, but it doesn't focus too much on how you can get to that point. For example, in Atomic Habits by James Clear, he specifically gives you practical blueprints on how to achieve breaking bad habits or building good ones, for example. But Bartlett never gives you a similar in-depth instructions on how to stay calm in pressure situations. So if you're looking for a step-by-step guide on how to achieve the same sort of mindset that Bartlett has, then you might be left disappointed. You should pick up this book if you fall into any one of these 3 categories. Number 1. You never picked up a self-help book before and you're not sure where to start. Then I would put this right at the top of your list. Number 2. You're travelling and you want something thought-provoking but not too dense either. And finally, number 3, if you are someone who does read a lot of self-help books but you're not sure what to read into next, then this would be a great choice. There'll be something in here that will pique your interest that you'll want to explore further. For example, after reading this, I'm going to personally look into the concepts of happiness and fulfillment that Bartlett talks about. If you have read this book, then let me know your thoughts in the comment section below.